Good morning, Morena. Kia ora tātou. Welcome everybody to today's council meeting on the 26th of March. It's lovely to see you all with us today. Before we open, I would like to invite Dale-Marie to start us off, please.
Tēnā koe te manukura. Tēnā tātou I te whare, ki o mātou manuwhiri, ki o kaimahi hou. Tēnā tātou. Tūtawa mai I runga, tūtawa mai I raro, tūtawa mai I roto, tūtawa mai I waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, haumie, hui e, tae ki e. Tūheitia ki te rangi, ko nāwai hono I te pō, I te whenua, e mihi kauana ki a tātou, I tai mai te kohu, I te ata nei, ka tākiri mai te ata, tēnā tātou.
Kia ora, Dale-Marie, thank you for that. And as you acknowledged our manahiri today, I think it's probably appropriate that I do so too. But before I do, it sort of dovetails a little bit into some of my opening comments this morning. I'm sure many of you will be aware that today is Ken's last council meeting. So I just wanted to acknowledge your 15 years of service, Ken, to Waipa, not only the organisation, but to the district on so many levels. And your expertise and passion for our people and place are really almost second to none. So I've really loved working alongside you. Really, your humour is absolutely hilarious. I will really miss Ken's erudite sense of humour. So look, we look forward to learning what you're going to do when you leave here. But really wish you all the best. And also, I see it's also Steph's last day, but she's not with us right now, but Steph Shaw's that is, but I'm sure there will be acknowledgements made a little later, but I want to acknowledge it's also Steph Shaw's last day with us today after a very long period of service for Waipa. So obviously closely related to that, one of our manahiri this morning, not really going to be manahiri because you're now in the house, James Graham. James, for those who have not met, James is coming on board as our Chief Financial Officer. So no doubt you'll all have an opportunity to meet James in due course. Welcome, lovely to have you with us, James. And another manahiri in the room is Tim McIndoe, who we'll obviously hear from a little later this morning in respect to an exciting development at Waikato University and a medical school. So yes, just acknowledging those people in the room and Ken and Steph's last day. Before I move on, I want to acknowledge Lou Brown's appointment too, and I knew I'd have a mind blank. What was the name of the committee? It's a Civil Defence Emergency Management. Yes, so I want to acknowledge Lou jumping in temporarily and subsequently being fully appointed following a vote. So congratulations, Lou, and I'm sure you will very ably take on that role as we would only expect from you. So look, without any further ado, let's rip into it. Apologies, I'm going to have to attend to some for a little later in the day. I'm going to have to dash off to a personal commitment. I have to confess it's to a Māori Cup event. I tell you what, reportages, they're nail biting. And so can we please note those? Can somebody please move and second that for me? Thank you, Philip and Mike. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against rather, carried. Wonderful, that's accepted. Moving on then to the disclosure of members' interests. I'm not aware of there actually being any, but there have been some jump into people's minds. Let's declare now or forever hold your peace. Nope. Excellent. Late items, again, I'm not aware of there being any. Order of the meeting. Who is somebody going to confirm that for me? Lou, you're going to confirm that, and Claire will second it. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Great. Moving on then to the confirmation of the minutes from our 26th February meeting. They appear there from page 10 onwards. As is our practice, we've had them circulated and I'm not sure that there's anything there to address. So Roger will move it and Claire will second that they're true and correct. I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. Excellent stuff. So without further ado, I shall invite the Honourable Tim McIndoe to take the hot seat. Lovely to have you in the house today, Tim, and really looking forward to hearing your presentation. Obviously, as you noted before, it's somewhat similar to the one presented to the Waikato Mayoral Forum some weeks back, but look, some really interesting propositions put to us at that meeting. So look, I'm really looking forward to hearing it again today and seeing what people's feedback will be on this really exciting development at the university. So welcome, the floor is yours. You have to press the button that says push and the light goes green and you're good to go.
Kia ora, Mayor Susan, and tēnā tātou katoa, ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Good morning, and thank you, Your Worship, for your kind welcome. Also, Joe, who's been wonderful to deal with as we've been setting this up. I did confess to her I'm a little nervous this morning because although I've been the ambassador for the medical school project for a little while now, it's the first time I've actually presented on my own to one of the councils. So I am pleased to see that I'm actually surrounded by a large number of people I know. There's a huge St. Peter's School connection here. I used to be the deputy principal. I'd acknowledge the kaumātua of the alumni, Philip Coles, and your late father, John. I'm not sure, I'm afraid I was overseas, and I'm sorry I missed his funeral. Mike Pettit, I've known. Mike Montgomery's mother and I were colleagues in the English department together. Marcus Gower's cousins were pupils, and wonderful pupils at that, and so it goes on. I've known Roger, I know obviously Deputy Mayor Liz well as well. So it is nice to be amongst friendly people. But anyway, I'm aware of the fact that the clock is ticking and I need to get on with it. I am also aware of the fact that Mayor Susan has already sat through a version of this presentation. Thank you. So we're underway now, Zoe. Thank you. Has sat through a version of this presentation. So I've tried to mix it up a little bit to make it a little bit different for Mayor Susan. But I was with Professor Neil Quigley, the Vice-Chancellor of the university, when he presented in Otahonga about 4 weeks ago now to the Mayoral Forum, and we were delighted with the very warm reception that the proposal received. It has largely been endorsed already by the Waikato Mayoral Forum, but my role is as ambassador to get around and to ensure that as many people as possible in our area are well informed about what the proposal involves. We hope through that to attract your support for it. I stressed to you right at the outset that I'm not here asking for a great bucket of money, because as a fellow elected member, I realise that that's not a particularly attractive concept for any councillors to be considering, particularly this close to an election year. But I am a very passionate advocate for this proposal. And in fact, in my former role as an MP, I was part of a team who were involved with the original development of it and promotion of it. And so I'm really thrilled now to have an opportunity to get out and spread the word, because it has the potential to be of huge benefit to your Waipa residents and to those throughout our wider region, and in fact, throughout the country. I thought what I would do, just to start with, is show you a few of the media reports that you'll possibly have been familiar with. And I'm sorry that the text is quite small, but that should, I think you've got an updated version of this proposal, or this presentation rather, in your diligent. If you were to Google media Waikato Medical School, you'd find a whole lot of different things. And in fact, if you Googled media GP shortage in New Zealand, you'd be flooded. There really is a lot of evidence. So I've just picked out a few from people who have been reported on recently, who I think can underline the problem for you. Now, rest assured, I'm not going to read all of the PowerPoint to you. It's quite large. There's a lot of text, and I realize that death by PowerPoint is an unappealing prospect at any time, and certainly when somebody is here trying to talk about improving primary healthcare, not destroying it. So let me just focus for a moment on Luke Bradford, Medical Director of the College of GPs, who was focusing on rural general practice. And you, of course, have a large rural part of your district. In fact, you probably consider yourself a rural and provincial council. So he's talking about your area, struggling with the recruitment and retention of doctors. I doubt whether there would be anybody in this room who hasn't found that in recent years you have to wait longer if you seek to make an appointment to see a GP. Quite often you have to travel further. The turnover in many medical practices is huge because a large number are leaving the country. And overall, this is a trend where all the stats are frankly moving in the wrong direction. So Luke Bradford, talking about this problem with recruitment and retention, talks about the fact that the doctors are struggling to keep up the workload, the on-call hours, which are really intense. Compounding this challenge, a study last year found mortality rates were higher in rural areas than urban areas. And so it goes on. He is a strong advocate. As you can see, he made the comment that the proposed medical school at Waikato University is likely to produce 120 graduates per year. Now, they won't all necessarily remain general practitioners for all time. But the problem we have at the moment is that the vast majority of those who are studying medicine choose not to become general practitioners. If you specialise, the likelihood is that you can go to what might be considered a more desirable area and certainly have a higher income. So it's understandable why those who are studying through Auckland and Otago at the moment tend not to become GPs. Some do, of course, but that is why we're having to import a large number of our doctors from overseas. Later on in the presentation, I will highlight for you a few ways in which you might be able to support this proposal if I've convinced you that it's worth doing. But as I say, I'm not here asking for bucket loads of cash, so please relax about that. That is Luke Bradford, the doctor I've just been referring to. He made the point that New Zealand is estimated to spend 6% of its health budget on primary care, which is less than half of the OECD average of 14%. That's another reason, I think, where some practices are struggling to find GPs. Haora Taiwhenua Rural Health Network Chair Fiona Bolden pointed to a tsunami of older people with complex needs as the population ages. And we know that our population is aging. It's a great thing that we're all living longer. It's not so comforting if we don't think that we're going to have access to reliable primary health care when we need it. So Fiona Bolden's comment is that the Waikato Medical School, having been built on successful overseas models, and it certainly has been, has the opportunity to boost rural primary care. And in her view, she's effectively saying there, it is a no-brainer. If it's properly resourced and coordinated properly, and it isn't just in Waikato, and it won't, we'll be the training hub, but it will have application widely. We want these people all over the country in rural places filling the gaps that currently exist, and she thinks that the model could be absolutely excellent. Here is another report from the local democracy reporter on One News in 2022 now, but it's still pretty recent, talking about the chronic shortage of GPs in South Auckland. Well, that's obviously not a rural area, but making the point that some of the poorer parts of Manukau are currently critically understaffed for GPs. The report, or rather the South Auckland GP, Dr. Api Talematoga, chairman of the Pacifica GP network, said that doctors on the front line in their area are severely under pressure and facing burnout. You can see the rest of it there. These reports are coming to us all over the country. So I have to say, in my view, this proposal is an absolute no-brainer. I have to be obviously able to understand and respond to the fact that there is quite significant political opposition in some quarters in this country, and that's another reason why I'm here, trying to ensure that elected members are well aware of what is proposed and perhaps debunk some of the things that are being said that are not accurate, or at least in our view are not accurate, to enable you to be represented, to represent the proposal more widely in your community.
Tim, can I just interrupt there? I believe, Dale-Marie, did you want to say something there?
Because this is the first time I've done it, I wonder if you wouldn't mind if I leave, just because I'm having to make sure that I keep to the time that Joe has allocated me, because I realise that you don't want me to go over time. But if it's something I could answer quickly, maybe, otherwise, if that's all right. So let's look at the specifics of the case for the medical school, starting with a few of the challenges. And I've just put a few up there. We're only graduating 60% of the new doctors we need each year in this country. That's been the case for some time. that in itself tells you that there is a major problem. That has resulted currently in having 1,700 fewer doctors than we need, and this is particularly acute in primary and provincial rural healthcare. That means that we are heavily reliant on immigrants, and that's IMG is not meant to be an abbreviation for immigrants, but we are heavily reliant on our immigrant doctors to fill a high proportion of the medical workforce, places where obviously very grateful to have them, welcome them with open arms, but the problem is many of them don't stay. We have huge turnover there. So recruiting our medical workforce, or being reliant on recruiting our medical workforce from overseas, is just not sustainable or desirable, particularly when we have so many young people in New Zealand who would love to be doctors, but because of the very high competitive entry required to get into Otago and Auckland, many of them, they're very bright, very capable young people, but they fall just short. And that's it. Unless they go overseas, and some do, particularly to the Gold Coast and other parts of Australia, that brings an end to their medical aspiration. I don't think Chris McClay, the chief exec of the Waikato Regional Council, will mind me telling you that I was at a function last night speaking to him, and his daughter was in that category. And she got so close. And I said, well, Chris, wouldn't it be great if we could get the Waikato Medical School up and running and maybe still cater for her? So I've asked him to go and talk to her about that. So over the years, we have been quite out of step with our counterparts in Australia. They're miles ahead of us in dealing with this particular problem, and in particular, offering alternative ways of studying medicine. Now, in New Zealand, of course, we have two very reputable medical schools at Otago and Auckland. The program is a demanding one. As you can see, they do a first-year health science course plus 5 years, or 3 or 4 year health science course plus 5 years. That caters for about a third of the medical student intake. Entry to their program is only through papers taken at Auckland or Otago. So a young student at the moment at Te Awamutu College who's sitting in a classroom today thinking, I really want to be a doctor, under the current model has no option but to go off to Auckland or Otago. And for a whole lot of reasons, that's just not possible for some. It's certainly hugely expensive and can be daunting. Wouldn't it be fabulous if we could say to that young person, actually, we can train you to be a GP right here in your region, and in fact, probably doing quite a bit of your training right here in Te Awamutu, if you want, and I'll come on to that in a moment. So our approach is a 4-year graduate entry, and it's graduate entry only. They would have to have a primary degree, but it could be any degree as long as they can pass a medical aptitude test, which is the GAMSAT test you can see down there. There are 3 stages to the admission process for them: graduate from any university with any degree plus the GAMSAT test, or alignment of the applicant with plus alignment of the applicant with medical workforce needs, because we're really wanting to ensure that our course is very closely structured to what is needed with the evolving trends in medicine, and a structured interview to assess non-academic qualities such as interpersonal and communication skills. Because we do know that there are some doctors who are extraordinarily bright, but not necessarily the most empathetic in sitting down and talking to us about some of our more intimate problems. So having the ability, those people skills that are required to put a patient at ease, is something that we consider is very important and will be part of the program. So I've already covered the first part of the slide there. And can people online see what I'm doing? That's good. So I apologize to those who are online who may think I'm missing bits, but I did promise I wouldn't read the whole thing to you. What I do want to emphasize on that slide is the fact that we are basing this program on one that has already been proven to work internationally, particularly in the UK, Canada, Australia, and those sorts of countries with which we often compare ourselves and with which we share so much in common. And I mentioned before that the Australians are light years ahead of us. So I've given you some examples there of where this particular program is already well underway and making an enormous difference. It is that they have their traditional or sort of Auckland and Otago equivalents, and that's great because we do need our specialists. We need our neurosurgeons, our pediatricians, and our oncologists and all the rest. But they also have this option, which is particularly attractive for GPs. Now, one of the things that I've already mentioned is that there could be an opportunity for very localized training. Under this particular program, first-year students, and bear in mind they are graduates who are now doing the first year of their medical training, would be at the University of Waikato over in Hamilton East for an intensive study of biomedical sciences and social determinants of health. But from year 2 onwards, many would be based in regional hospitals with rotations in general medicine. The great thing about online learning now is that they can be based in quite a remote area with some teaching coming online from a lecturer or professor based in, might be at Waikato University, it might be somewhere else. So years 2 and 3 see them going through training in regional hospitals. That means that they can be assisting within the regional hospitals under supervision where there are already major gaps. Year 3, longitudinal primary care placement. By this point in their training, they should be able to cope with 3 days a week in general practice. So they might be in your GP clinic here in Te Awamutu or Cambridge or one of the other areas of the Waipa district, 1 day in acute care and 1 day for other community health activities. So very practical, on-the-job, local learning. Now think about the graduate who might be a young person in a relationship with a young family. This will enable that person effectively to be at home for most of his or her continuing training. Certainly not an option for those who are going off to Auckland or Otago unless they happen to live in Dunedin North or parts of the Epsom electorate. So this is a model that may enable that young person who started a family, got a mortgage, got all sorts of things that would preclude them from going off to traditional medicine, medical training, to go through our program while still being at home. Obviously, young people who are both in the workforce need childcare, but it's all doable. And then the 4th year, the trainee intern model, where they're based in regional hospitals for core rotations in medicine and surgery. They're effectively coming to the end of their program. By this time, the likelihood is that they are ready to be fully fledged general practitioners. And they do their electives and selectives in various settings around the country, frankly. So I've emphasized there the delivery locations of regional hospitals where this program is likely to be able to be taught in. But on the right-hand side there, you'll see the primary care facilities that are adjacent to community learning centres, and I've highlighted for you the fact that Te Awamutu is identified as one of those primary care facilities. How am I doing for time, Joe? I'm aware of the fact I do need to allow some time for questions as well. So it does get a bit political, and I'm going to try not to be overly political, but I think I've picked up from the body language, the heads nodding, etc., that you all agree with me that there's a major problem, that we need to find a new solution for fixing it. Having said that, it's been painfully slow. This is a proposal that's been mooted now for the best part of a decade. In fact, it's been considered for considerably longer than that. It's met with a lot of political obstacles, and even within the current government, because it was essentially a national party policy, but even within the current coalition government, there are still obstacles. And I'm going to be very discreet in what I say, but it is my firm hope that the work that Treasury is doing, coming back to answer more and more questions and building the business case, will ultimately produce something that is so compelling that it will enjoy broad political support. It doesn't have that broad political support at the moment, but as you can see, there is a detailed business case and implementation business case focusing on the Waikato option, because Waikato's been at the front, but another region could come forward and say, well, let's consider us doing it instead, or as well as, and over time, I think maybe as well as could happen. So that's why indications of local and national support are important, and part of my role obviously is trying to ensure that we get that support here in our region. There are some big decisions looming before Cabinet within the next few weeks. In fact, they are imminent. If the right decision, and I'm going to call it the right decision, is made, then you can expect to see in or before this year's budget, which is only 2 months away now in May, confirmation of the government funding for it, and then accreditation. Now you'll see there, this is more straightforward because working with Wollongong's already accredited curriculum and guidance on implementation is the expectation. We have an excellent relationship with Wollongong University in Australia. They're being very accommodating and generous in the support they're giving us. We are almost certainly likely to have their curriculum being rolled out for implementation here. And there's a lot of work being done between the two to ensure that we learn from their experiences in rolling this out, overcome any of the pitfalls they may have encountered initially, but it is going really well for them, and we believe it would go really well for us as well. So the opportunity we're presenting is the creation of a community-centred approach to developing our health workforce. Locally trained doctors committed to primary care, replacing our current reliance on importing doctors from overseas. The university and central government investments spread across regional training hubs and sites in which students will be placed for clinical experience. I think I've already largely covered that. The wider entry pathways that are a part of the program, far wider opportunities than Auckland and Otago can offer. So just back before I open it up for your questions and feedback, here's just another media article to finish with, and it's partly because it at least gave me an opportunity for another graphic. Natalie Akuri would be familiar to many of you as Radio New Zealand's senior reporter based here in the Waikato. Just in January this year, she reported on the huge concern of the Junior Doctors Union. Now, many of our junior doctors are feeling incredibly stressed, and you'll hear that from time to time they strike because it's their way of sort of trying to say, we're just loaded to the max, we need some relief here. The Resident Doctors Association Secretary, Dr. Deborah Powell, I'm sure that is a name that will be familiar to you, said it is incredibly frustrating that the decision has not yet been made. The Junior Doctors Union, obviously strongly supportive of working with the University of Waikato to implement this program. Another paragraph that I've highlighted there for you, while we go on, I won't call it dithering, but while the prevarication and the delays are happening, in the interim, we spend money bringing more people in from overseas, retraining them, because there is that requirement for them to be retrained in tikanga and various other aspects that wouldn't be part of their program overseas. And of course, the majority of our overseas doctors leave the country within 5 to 10 years. Just focus on that for a moment. The majority of our overseas doctors on whom we are so reliant to plug the gaps at the moment are leaving the country within 5 to 10 years. So we fundamentally need to produce more of our own because we know that 80% of our own graduates are still here over 10 years. That's the New Zealand born, New Zealand raised ones will stay, the overseas ones will not. We want to ensure that we increase that percentage significantly. The Association of Salaried Medical Specialists Executive Director said the country needs more doctors as soon as possible. And if greenlit, the Waikato Medical School is expected to open with 120 enrolments in 2027. We do need a quick decision to make sure that that can happen, with the university funding 100 million of the 380 million cost. So 280 million of that would come from the government. So I said, just before I opened up for your feedback, I said that I'd give you some ideas of how you can help. When you have visiting ministers and MPs, please raise the subject with you if you get that opportunity. I'm sure you have a good relationship with Barbara Kuriger, and you won't be surprised to know that she's a very strong supporter of this proposal. So she's doing what she can with her colleagues in Wellington. But we really need visiting MPs from outside the area to understand why this is such a great proposal to deal with one of the most critical challenges facing our country. People are desperately worried about the lack of primary health care. That's not an insignificant issue. So advocating, and you as elected members and the staff who are here have regular contact with elected members, local MPs in central government, you can help us to be ambassadors for this program. We obviously need everyone advocating for a positive and quick decision in favour of the proposal. If it hasn't already been done, and it's good to meet your new CFO, because working with your business development person here, if there hasn't already been one, a letter of support endorsing the project on behalf of Waikato District Council, endorsing the Merrill Forum's support for it would be very helpful. Again, for us just to be able to show that there's widespread support and stress the fact that it's not just health, but there are also social and economic benefits. This will see a lot of investment back into your area by having the students training here. They'll need to reside here. So one area where you might be able to consider some financial support would be assisting with the provision of some accommodation for the students while they're here, because the university is not really in a position to start buying houses all around the country. But for the students who are going to be based here, if it's possible to assist with the provision of accommodation, that would be helpful. In particular, talking to your philanthropic trusts, and if they show some interest, your generous local donors. And in a previous role, I was working for Momentum Waikato, the community foundation. I spent some time at Te Awamutu College, and apart from being very impressed by the alumni of that college, it's amazing. It's about half the distinguished New Zealanders, it seems, went through Te Awamutu College. But there are also some very generous people who have done well and who I know would be willing to support good causes in your community. So talking to them, and if they show real interest, perhaps putting them in touch with me so that I can talk to them, would be deeply appreciated. And then staying informed and opinionated and outspoken on this proposal. So if time permits, I think there is. If it doesn't, you can email any questions afterwards, but I think Councillor Roger has one.
Thank you, Neil. Can I just cut first of all to Dale-Marie? She's been waiting
Yes, sorry,
patiently, then you,
Dale-Marie.
Roger, and then Mike.
And I should have thanked Dale-Marie for letting me in at the outset.
Tēnā koe, Tim. It's part of our manaakitanga as Māori wards to make sure that we exercise our manaakitanga outside of the buildings as well. So I'm just going to jump into it because I was lucky to work at Massey University in amongst the midwifery and the nursing programs. So I'm going to put the arewhana in the room. Everybody knows what an arewhana is.
I presume
It's
you
an
have a long
elephant.
trunk.
Because I noticed in your presentation there was no talk about Māori or iwi, and yet Māori are quite focused in the high stats in our health system at the moment, who represent quite, well, are overrepresented in the health system right now. So I've just picked up on a couple of your things that you've mentioned. How many Māori doctors that graduate, how many of them stay in New Zealand after they've graduated? And I do have subsequent questions after this.
Under the traditional model, I don't know, I'm sorry.
Okay, because like you picked up on local people,
Yes.
local graduates, usually stay local. And I know people weighing on saying that there's a racist entry into Auckland. But if they actually saw the data, and the reason why is actually a lot of the stuff that you mentioned about others, rural, long way from home. Yeah. Those are the normal barriers that Māori have as well, but yet we're considered under this special treatment, a bit like how some people think about Māori wards too. But I also need to touch on what you said around the OECD and the average of 14%, and we only stick 6%. And I'm picking up on that, particularly with the disestablishing of our health system for the Māori side recently. So I picked up, you said it wasn't political, but it is very political. I also know that Massey gave away their midwifery program once upon a time. So I'm wondering about the gentleman handshakes that are across the country currently with different institutions and how that affects the proposed Waikato Medical School. Because I am going to advocate for your school because my people are the worst in the stats. But there are some things I am concerned about. If we're graduating 60%, how many are Māori? And that's not featured in the data that you've provided. And we're reliant on a migrant workforce that I've also picked up for recruiting that way. High competitive entry, retraining, and they don't stay. Now that for me is a formula to maybe look at how we reposition that to local Māori, non-Māori, that are from this country. And that's not against migrants in any way, because I know they provide a great service to us, but kind of picked up on that thinking, why don't we also channel that to keep our own at home? A lot of reasons that hinder potential students, as I said, are the same things that you've brought up, that Māori experience. So I'm really, really interested to see where we're focusing, because I'm sure if we brought down a few of those Māori health stats, we wouldn't have as many problems and bills as we have in the health system. So yeah, really interested in this because I am keen to advocate for your kura. Tēnā koe.
Kia ora, Dale Marie. I'm keen for you to advocate as well. And there's a lot to cover in there. I'm not going to touch on the OECD thing anymore because I think that is getting into a political domain that I should avoid. But let me just see if I can answer a couple of things. The first thing is to apologise. I may have glossed over it, but let me give you an absolute assurance. This is a program that will deliver for Maori, Pacifica, and many other groups who traditionally struggle to get into medical training in New Zealand. Ours is a region with a higher than average Maori population. It is our expectation, our hope, and our focus to ensure that we cater for them in large measure, because we do know that many Maori patients would prefer to have a Maori doctor. That's understood. I don't have the answers to all the questions you have as to the percentage who are leaving the country at the moment of Maori doctors, etc. But I do want to give you an absolute assurance that one of the real advantages that we see or benefits of this particular program is its ability to cater for a wider demographic of New Zealanders. The fact of the matter is that most of our medical students at the moment come from medical backgrounds. Of all the disciplines across universities, medicine tends to be the one where you are more likely to be the son or daughter of a doctor or a nurse or somebody who works in healthcare. Now, that's fine for those young people, but it just means that we're missing out on a whole lot of others who could be very, very good doctors. And it tends to be a fairly elitist type of intake. If you were to look down, and don't ask me please to give you the exact stats, but if you were to look at the intakes at Auckland and Otago for medical students, you'd find that there would be a huge disparity, a huge imbalance. The vast majority will have come from high decile schools, the independent schools, the integrated schools, and some of the leading schools, Auckland Grammar, Otago Boys High School, Otago Girls, etc., etc. Not so much from some of our smaller provincial high schools. But that's where we need the doctors. So I hope that I can give you the assurance you're looking for. Every attempt is being made to build this program to cater for that particular cohort.
You know you're on camera, so I can always come back to this
You
recording.
can. Dale Marie, I'm very happy for you to quote those words back to me. We're all very passionate about that aspect, changing the way in which we recruit to ensure that we have a much wider representation of New Zealanders in our training.
You might be talking about council too, then.
I may not look like the sort of representation of the diversity you're asking for.
Thank you, Dale Marie. Roger.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair. Tim, thank you very much. I'm wondering whether I should have actually declared a conflict of interest with my daughter, having been one of the recruits into Waikato University in the health school from Otago University. So she's seen the light. And I certainly 100% support what you've mentioned this morning. The facts that you've given us are very, very compelling for the establishment of that school in the Waikato. But you mentioned that there is a strong, or there is an existing political resistance towards that. What is the key basis of their lack of support or alternative that they're offering? And what is your counter-argument against that voice?
at the risk of being simplistic, it's probably twofold. One is that Auckland and Otago have for many years argued that they can fix the problem if only they receive extra resourcing. They have received extra resourcing, the problem keeps getting worse. And it certainly doesn't change the way in which people focus on, the students focus on their learning. In other words, they are still going through those programs and aspiring to specialize in a really demanding area, possibly for the higher income, certainly because it's an attractive option to be able to choose their location where they specialize. The second is that there are some within the political establishment who keep suggesting that the business case doesn't stack up. We believe that it does. I'm not personally involved in that aspect, but I can assure you that the group who are working at the university are working incredibly hard to answer every question, provide every detail that is being asked for, and the input has been extensive. The group of people I've been working with in recent times at the university are very impressive, passionate, informed. They've done their international research. So it initially, I guess, as so often happens, when it becomes a political idea, the political parties do tend to take sides on it. And there are some former and current politicians who have close links to Auckland and Otago University. And I'm going to leave it at that and let you draw your own conclusions. We need to show them that actually having close links to Waikato University is a very good way of helping to turn the stats around for a declining workforce, an aging workforce at the same time that we have a rapidly aging population.
Thanks, Tim. Mike, then Claire, then Philip.
Thank you. Through the mayor. Kia ora, Tim, for your presentation. Hey, very compelling. A few things I'd like to pick up on. In terms of location, I mean, we are, and this is statistically correct, Hamilton's the fastest growing city in New Zealand, part of the Golden Triangle, which is obviously a key economic driver for the whole country, which I think every government has picked up on.
Yes.
Well, actually, maybe I shouldn't say every government. We might have an expressway to priority, but that's the. And so, in terms of location, it makes perfect sense. Also, I really like how you picked up here that I guess how this thing works is have an undergraduate degree. That proves that this person can study, they can stick to something that they can succeed. So they've got the ethos of study, which I think is really good. And I really like this, the GAMSET thing, because there's still a benchmark that they have to actually reach. And that's just a fact of life. You know, you go into a doctor, you want to know that they've actually come from somewhere of some intelligence. But the other thing is all the softer stuff, the interpersonal skills, which you've alluded to, which is so important to actually that relationship and feeling comfortable of when you go and see a GP or a general practitioner or someone in that sort of medical field, the cultural competencies and those sorts of empathy and those softer skills which aren't academic, but they're just so important, because once you become a whatever, in this case a doctor, the study gets left behind and you become a person that interacts with the public, and that becomes increasingly important. So yeah, really like to see that in there. I've got a question around student loans, and I'm just guessing here. Is there a maximum amount of years that a student can get a loan? Do you know? And I'm just wondering if there is, would this sort of affect it? If there isn't, just keep studying?
I think there is, but I'm getting out of my field.
Right.
But
yeah, cap.
I understand that there is some
Cap. Right.
But also some provision for medical students.
Right.
And we would lobby for and expect for our students through the Waikato program to have exactly the same opportunities for loans as those who go through Auckland and Otago.
Yeah, great.
Sorry,
Yeah.
out of my field, I'm sorry.
No, it's just something to probably be considered, that potentially these people could be studying for 8 years, and if finance is a barrier, it's just something for your business case just to be considered or fleshed out. Yeah, no, I think that was it from me.
And
No,
thank you
very
for your
good.
positive comments, because I'm appreciating not just having questions, but I really need your feedback. Because if you had reservations or felt that there are flaws in the argument, then we need to know about those and ensure that both I become better informed to deal with them in future, but also that we are coping with those, because if you're asking those questions, others who are the ultimate decision makers probably are as well.
Sure. And just the opportunity of student accommodation in Waipa, could be something that, you know, people in this area could look at too, because it's only a stone throw from that. You know, the arterial routes to university are very easy to get to from Waipa. Thank you, Tim. Kia ora.
So thank you, Mike.
So
And that includes-
seven
that
to
includes
8 years maximum for student loans. Thanks, James. Claire?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Tim, I love everything that you've talked about today. I think it's a really compelling case. I just wanted to comment on my personal, I suppose, connections have been affected by the current policy. So one is a migrant doctor family who have 2 girls who are geniuses and want to go to medical school. The first one was the ducts of one of the colleges in Hamilton, and she applied both to Otago and to Auckland. This was about 4 years ago, and she was one that they had a cap of 90 students intake there, and she also applied to Australia and to Otago, and she got into Auckland. And then her younger sister, she has applied to the New Zealand medical schools, also to Australia and also to Ireland. She's gone to Ireland. Okay, and I just think it's so difficult for children or students who are very intelligent, but the constrained number of first year intake, well, actually, I don't know. I think, yeah, this is definitely from high school, yeah, getting in, yeah. And just hearing the stories of those families trying to get their children to some other university around the world, yeah.
It's prohibitive other than for those who have substantial means.
Absolutely. And the reason that they ended up in Ireland is that the dad, who's the doctor, he worked in Ireland for a short time, or for some time before he came to New Zealand. And I can see that how he will probably, if his children get placements overseas, they'll probably leave New Zealand and go overseas.
That's
to,
right.
to join them, you know. So those things that you were talking about, you know, are very real.
Quite right. And we New Zealanders have invested in their education, benefited from having them here while they've been here, but then the education and the skills are lost overseas. And that's happening over and over and over again.
Yeah. And then the second thing I'd like to share is that I do a lot of conservation volunteering. So one of the volunteers that we have at Pirongia is an American doctor, a young doctor, who's on a placement in Te Kuiti.
Great.
Yeah, and it's been great to have her, I suppose, to see that she wants to be part of the community, you know, not just doing her job in Te Kuiti. And I'm sure the Te Kuiti community really love having her there, but, you know, she's volunteering as well. And yeah, I just think it shows that the benefits that the community is going to get from having these student doctors, you know, or recent graduates in their community. Not only will they provide for medical care, but they'll be contributing in lots of other ways to the community.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's fabulous to hear that she is doing that. Let's hope that she stays. But let's hope that in 3 or 4 years, she's working alongside a couple of other GPs who went to Te Kuiti High School.
Yeah, yeah. And so I just love that focus of the model that you're sort of set for us today, and the fact that you're using an Australian model that seems to really produce the results that we want. So
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's going to be, a top.
We are not trailblazing in that sense. We are working very closely with those who are delivering this program with great success in other parts of the world. And as I say, the relationship with Wollongong University is a really important one. and we're almost certainly going to be rolling out their curriculum.
Yeah, so I think the people that have been doing the groundwork, I think, yeah, full marks to them, yeah, and wish all the success that you can
Thank you,
get.
Claire. Appreciate
Yes.
your comments and your feedback.
Thanks, Claire.
And
I too had a second cousin who didn't make it into Auckland medical school, but so went to Brisbane and trained there. He's now married, 2 children, and he's never coming home. Philip.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, Tim. Great to see you,
And you
and
too.
warm welcome to our chambers and things like that. So, really supportive of your proposal and things like that. You and your team have been working on this for a really long time. It's been ongoing for a long period of time. To have it up and running in less than 2 years, which would be a phenomenal result. We're short of doctors and things like that, but how we place with resources of staff and professors and things like that to help train these people to get it up and running in less than 2 years' time. Are we short on those sorts of resources as well?
well, fortunately, because Waikato Hospital is a teaching hospital, there is already, again, I'm a little bit out of my area of expertise. We probably need to get Professor Joe Lane to answer that in more detail, but my understanding is, yes, we will have the teaching options. And as I mentioned before, some of the teaching will be delivered online. So the lecturer may well be based in another part of the country. We are looking to develop the relationships with as many different teaching hospitals around the country as we can. So I think the answer is yes. We can deliver.
Thanks, Tim. Lou.
Thank you. Thanks.
I won't take too long, Tim. I'm very, very supportive.
Thank you.
And the reason for that, I have a different role to everyone here a little bit in civil defence. But we look at a situation at the moment where we are short on the ground. If we have a major emergency, our hospitals are overwhelmed. We found that during COVID.
Yes.
So we know that that exists. I would suggest that we get you to do a presentation perhaps to our joint committee, which is, the whole 9 territorial authorities, because I believe that we would support having an extra amount of people on the ground in rural areas that can be operative. It's essential in a situation when we have a civil emergency.
Yeah.
It just makes sense. And I would say we could classify that as a part of resilience. So I just wanted to emphasise that at the current point in time, you only have to walk into Waikato Hospital, into the emergency department and see what's there. If we had 50 patients arrive on ambulances altogether, we would be having, as you say, people lying in ambulances untreated for periods of time. So we do need to have this infrastructure in place.
Lou, I appreciate that comment, and I would be delighted to take up that opportunity if you could provide it for me. So thank you. I've put my email address at the end of the presentation in Diligent if you do wish to contact me. But you make a very, very good point that none of us knows what might be around the corner. After all, there was a significant earthquake in Southland just yesterday. We know what's happened in Christchurch. We know what's happened in years gone by in Hawke's Bay and around the country. And that's just earthquakes. There are all sorts of things that could happen. So I think you're absolutely right. And just going back to Philip's point a moment ago, when I made the comment, a number of students who are going through Auckland Medical School in their latter years of study are placed in Waikato Hospital. That's what I meant about it also being a teaching hospital. I wasn't implying that the program was already running there, but they have some of their advanced training on placement at Waikato Hospital, in the same way that Otago, of course, has its clinical schools in Dunedin, Christchurch and Wellington, because the students have to get around the country. So we'll just build on that. I was aware of the fact I might not have answered your question fully. I'm also aware of the fact that I've now gone over time. So Mayor Susan, could I thank you again? Ken, could I wish you all the very best for whatever lies ahead? 15 years in local government is a major achievement. I've just been voted as the new councillor in Hamilton to deliver dad jokes following the retirement of Mark Donovan, one of our councillors. So it sounds as if some of the dad jokes are leaving the chamber at both ends. But I wish you all the best. And could I thank you all, councillors, very much, and your community board representatives and other members of the public for this opportunity. I would be delighted to continue the engagement. Any further feedback would be welcome. If there are any questions, particularly if I haven't answered some as well as you would have liked me to, please do send them through and I'll endeavour to get a proper answer to you fairly soon. Joe, could I finish by thanking you? You were absolutely delightful to deal with. This is the first time I've presented on my own. That's why I was so nervous, Joe. You helped put me at ease, and it was also nice to realise that I knew most of the people in the room.
Thank you very much, Tim. Yes, obviously there'd been no opposition around this table, no surprise to me, and hopefully no surprise to you. You will also be aware that I'm on the 7th of April meeting with Mayor Neil Holdham and Neil Quigley to discuss this issue. It was raised recently at our rural and provincial sector meeting in Wellington by Mayor Adrian from Matamapiako and myself, and we've followed up with Neil Holdham to see if the rural and provincial sector too can get behind lobbying for the medical school. The more support, the better, right? You can never be too well supported. So certainly I'm looking forward to that 7th of April meeting.
Absolutely. We just need to get the word out there. And that's why I'm talking to as many councils as I can.
Great.
To enable.
And councillors will be aware, I've just emailed you a snapshot, a rural snapshot, bit of work done by Hauora Tai Whenua, the Rural Health Network. Really interesting insights there into what the landscape looks like in terms of the rural and provincial sector vis-a-vis health issues. So thank you very much, Tim. Thank you for your presentation today, and I wish you well for the rest of your day.
Ngā mihi. Ka kite anō.
Ka kite. Thank you, Tim. Now, I have a small recommendation there, obviously appearing on page 19, which is to receive the Honourable Tim McIndoe's information at the conclusion of his report. You're happy to move, Philip? If Andrew will second, I'll put the motion. All those in favour say aye. Against? Carried. Lovely. Great. Thank you very much. Safe travels, Tim. Okay, team, moving on then to our next item, the adoption of Ahuake, our community spatial plan and implementation plan. Now, Vanessa, can I invite you to take the seat, and can I also invite Poto, Gayleen and Bill, welcome, kia ora to you all, to come and sit at the table, around the table here. Yes. And Ben, pull up a pew. I didn't see you hiding behind the chairs here. This is a problem with this room, right? You can't see who's in the. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. And obviously we have Kirsty online. Tēnā koutou. Ko te wehi ki te kāinga nana ngā mea katoa. Ka whakaharentia te araniki koene ngā waihono i te pō po tātou te whiruwhiru te tuawaru. Pai Māori e ki te kāhui ariki whānui tonu. Ki rātou rātou kua riro ki te pō Harold Maniapoto rā, mā, haere, oki atu rā. Ki ngā mana whenua kua te mai, kua tautoko i te mahi nei, tēnā koutou. He rangi whakahirahira tēnei, kia whakamanahia a Ahuake i tātou, kia anga whakamua tātou o Waipā. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Well, good morning, everybody. I will pass over to Kirsty, who will introduce this item, who unfortunately is unable to be with us in chambers today. It's obviously it's a privilege actually to be sitting here to be introducing this item. and I'm particularly proud to be sitting here as part of the PCG, which was so ably led by Vanessa and Kirsty, but really critical role played by our mana whenua partners, Poto, Gayleen and Bill. Wonderful to have you here to join us, and it's a great pity that Tipene and Dominic aren't here, but they are in spirit. So look, I shall hand over to Kirsty to take the lead.
Thank you, through the chair, tēnā koutou katoa. Apologies that I'm not able to be with you in person. This is a piece of work that I feel incredibly passionate about. I'm sure you have no doubt about that. As project owner, I am incredibly proud to be able to introduce this item today. I wish to acknowledge former Chief Executive Gary Diet for his vision in acknowledging the need to develop a district-wide spatial plan for Waipa and for entrusting us to bring that vision to life. I'd also like to acknowledge our mana whenua and iwi partners who embrace the opportunity to work in partnership with us to develop Ahuaki. Particularly like to acknowledge Gayleen, Poto and Bill, our mana whenua PCG representatives who are in the room today and who, along with Matua Harold Maniapoto, shared a Te Ao Māori worldview that is woven through Ahuaki. I'd also like to thank you, our elected members, for backing us to develop an award-winning plan, for encouraging us to do things differently, to utilise new technology and to engage with partners, stakeholders and our communities in authentic and meaningful ways, and to always have people and place at the very heart of Ahuaki. I am especially proud of the commitment, focus and passion of those we've been blessed to work with. In particular, Vanessa as our project manager, the members of the project team and the PCG and staff from across the organisation. This has been some years in the making. Finally, our Waipa communities for embracing opportunities to engage and ensure that we successfully deliver on our vision to be Waipa, home of champions, building connected communities. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I'd like now to hand to Vanessa, who will present the report, and then hoping that when Vanessa has finished, there'll be an opportunity for Poto, Gayleen and or Bill to share some words if they would like to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Morena, everyone. I'm going to try to present the report without being completely emotional. It's a big day. So a quick word for me as well to thank absolutely everyone around this table for their support and vision over the last 4 years of developing Ahuaki. And I'm going to try to keep it together. And more particularly to the ones who have been involved in the project control group for the vision and the support and really being our compass for the last 4 years and bringing this and guiding this project to completion and to this milestone today. The purpose of this report is to seek the adoption of Ahuaki, Waipa Community Spatial Plan, and Ahuaki implementation plan. The documents we are put forward for adoption today are on page 225 of the agenda and 386 of the agenda. I would like to briefly summarize some of the key points who have led to this milestone today. We've started the project back in 2020, and I'm not going to go through the different steps that we've taken to extensively engage and partner along the way. These have been actually mentioned over and over again. What I will focus on, though, is the phase of consultation that has taken place over the last 6 months. On the 1st of October in 2024, the Strategic Planning and Policy Committee approved the documents to go for consultation, and this took place over a 4 weeks period during the 4th of October and the 4th of November last year. We received 138 submissions from 66 submitters. Of those, 5 were from our Mana Whenua partners, 2 from our committee boards, 30 from key agencies and stakeholder community groups, and 29 from members of our communities, of our community. Of those 66 submitters, 24 presented at the hearing on the 27th of November last year. As a result of the 138 submission received, which actually led to over 366 submission points, a number of changes were made to the plan, and more particularly to the implementation plan, which were deliberated on the 24th of February this year. These changes related to enhancing the scope of the implementation activities and the amendment of some of their timeframes as well. I would like also to point out that staff received an email from Councillor St. Pierre on Monday, and thank you again for your keen eye on detail there, to request some amendments. Those amendments were largely of minor nature, really about grammar and some duplication in words, and fall within the authority delegated to Kirsty as a group manager strategy to make minor editorial correction and as per recommendation D of the report. And this is for staff to be able to incorporate them into the plan and the implementation plan. If that's okay now, I would like to pass on maybe to some of our PCG Mana Whenua members, if you would like to say a word before this is put for discussion to councillors, if that's okay. Yeah.
Thanks, Vanessa. Yes.
Tēnā koe te rangatira o te tipi nei huri no kia koutou tātou katoa. Nei rāta mihi kia koutou. E mihi ana kia Vanessa, korua kia Kirsty, koutou kia Gary. He mihi kia koutou, hei manaaki, hei chāki nā mana whenua I raro I te kaupapa o Ahuaki. Good morning to everybody. So my first thing that I need to do this morning is one, her name is Te Ariki Nui Queenie Ngāwai Hono I Te Pō, and it has a full stop. That is the correct way to verbal and written, that is her name. So there's no tuawaru, that's a man, that only happens to men. So yeah, so I just thought I'd just do that this morning. But on behalf of Ngāri Tōpu and those that are participated in this, we'd like to thank the council for allowing Mana Whenua to go on this journey with Vanessa and Kirsty. It was an eye-opener, I must say. But I think that for the future of Māori and our mokopuna, we thank you for even just having Ahuaki. It is sad that Gary is not here because we give him a hard time through the process. But he, you know, he's been around us a long time, so he knows. But I think that going forward, Ahuaki will be very good for Māori and our mokopuna to come in the future. Ngā mihi kia koutou. Kia koe.
Ai, tēnā tātou, me Susan, koutou ngā rangatira I te tepu, koutou ngā kaimahi. Vanessa, Kirsty, Ben, for your dedicated work in delivering such an awesome plan. I think just the depth and the scope and the thoroughness with which you approached it and delivered it was quite amazing. And all the work that you rolled out, continually rolled out, improvements, and the stuff that appeared on media was just outstanding. For me, I found it as representing Ngāti Kōriki Kahukura, probably one of the best genuine engagement processes I've had with Waipa. What I really enjoyed most was us being in the same room and being able to form those ideas together alongside councillors and staff. So yeah, we're really proud of the work and this model that you've put out there. for the whole community. So nei rā te mihi kia koutou. Tēnā koe.
Toi tū te kupu, toi tū te mana, toi tū te whenua, toi tū te riti, tia Māori ora. Kia ora koutou katoa. Yeah, kia ora to you all. Having sat around the table for a little while now, a couple of terms, getting on to the end of a couple of terms now. Kia ora Susan for your mihi, and to I can't really say too much more than my two colleagues have already said about the process for ahuaki, and also to acknowledge, as Susan has, Harold Maniapoto. It's I need to do that as part of Maniapoto ki te raki going forward. A decision Harold put upon me. So I just wanted to acknowledge Harold, the same as everybody else has here today. And although we're part of we're one part of the partnership, there are all the councillors that participated in this process that were on the PCG. So just wanted to acknowledge all of you as well. It's not me or us, it's us together. So acknowledging that partnership arrangement that we were able to deliver through the help of Kirsty and Vanessa and all the other staff that participated in ahuaki. So I've championed it at strategic planning and other forums, so continue to champion it here today. One of the big things for me was when we first started on the journey, and we were looking at, I was thinking about it this morning when we were trying to do a map of the district, and we started to draw a map of the district, and what we were asked by Kirsty and Vanessa and others is, where are the significant parts for mana whenua? Well, by the time we started to map those out, I can tell you there wasn't too much of the Waipa District Council that wasn't significant. So we often talk about significant sites, but the whole of Waipa District is significant. And I wanted to make that point here. The whenua that you sit on is significant to mana whenua. And we, as mana whenua, we've been all over this piece of land, and we all relate to all of this piece of land at some point in our history. And so, I just wanted to take you back to when we were trying to map out, so what is significant for mana whenua? Well, the whole of the Waipa District is significant for mana whenua, and we know it's significant as well for the council. But it's through partnership projects like this, I hope that we can work a little bit more together in progressing that's the significance of this space. So kia ora koutou. Thanks, Susan.
Oh, kia ora, Bill, Gayleen and Poto. Thank you for your kind words. I was just reflecting as you were talking there about potentially one of the highlights, I'd have to say, of my whole time around this table. Probably took place several years ago, and I think Roger will recall being there at Te Manawa o Matariki room. I sort of felt that there was a significant step forward. There was a seismic shift in our thinking. I think there was quite a significant meeting of the minds, and it was almost palpable in the room without getting a bit sort of spiritual. But that marked for me quite a shift in the way that this collective group of people who've sat in this room conducted or saw Waipa and conducted themselves, I suppose, going forward. So that'll stick in my mind, I think, for my lifetime. There were some really honest discussions had and some big steep learnings for us all. So I hate that word, learnings, just by the way. I don't know why I said it, but anyway, look, I just thought it was a lot of growth shown around around that in that room that day. So look, I shall open the floor for comments. When the time comes, I would like to take the great honour of actually moving the recommendation. So don't jump in. Anyone? I'll ankle tap you if you try. So Roger, the floor is yours.
Yes, kia ora. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to reiterate the comments that you made about what you felt was a seismic shift in relationships and discussions. And I think, when I think back of the whole of the community involvement process that we went through. I mean, obviously the consultation and involvement with iwi was, I think, very good. But one of the things that I enjoyed was actually going into the high school and putting a dirty, great big map on the floor. Now, I don't know where you got that map prepared, but it was really incredible to see that and to have involvement with the youth of Waipa and what they wanted for their future, for their children. And I think that that was really, really important in what you went through there. I also acknowledge that as a council, we introduced and participated in some of the more modern forms of participatory democracy, if I've said that correctly. And the World Cafe, where we actually brought in the community and they had a real opportunity to sit down and work through the issues rather than, you know, being a little bit cynical. Sometimes our consultation is a tick box exercise, but here we actually went and really talked to the people. Just as a point, and I'm going to acknowledge this because the lady rang me 2 days ago and spent an hour on the phone with me explaining her concerns, and she was concerned about the actual arterial road network that's being developed, and was actually, her understanding was that it was shown in the maps as being quite defined in terms of Leamington. And I actually gave her an assurance that this is a long-term plan, and actually there are short-term initiatives like the refresh of Cambridge connections, which will actually further define and be more critical about where that network is going to be placed and is going to occur. So that was an interesting call. But I'd just like to say, Vanessa, I think you've done a wonderful job. And I think that the way that you've enabled that community input into this document has been tremendous. So thank you very much. And thank you to your friends on the PCG, yeah, who have guided this through. So thank you. Really supportive. Thank you.
Kia ora, Roger. Any other questions about this piece of work? Claire?
Yeah, I'd just like to make some comments, some compliments. Yeah, so I just really want to recognise the project team. Yeah, Kirsty and Vanessa and Ben and the others that, you know, have been drawn into this, you know, to produce such high quality and like award-winning plan at the end of it. Yeah, is credit to you all, and yeah, I want to acknowledge that. So well done. I was on the PCG and I must admit it was hard going at times. Yeah, but it was great to have Mana Whenua there too. Yeah, I think that's been probably, yeah, a critical success factor. And I agree, Roger, with that community engagement that we did as well, you know, like having those maps and other props and things like that, you know, the boards with all of the prompts and that, yeah. It was really great to be part of that and to hear firsthand from the community. I really support participatory democracy initiatives. Not too sure when we'll do the next one, but I think it really sends the message to our community that we really value what they've got to say and want to hear it verbatim. Yeah. And so I look forward to more of that. But I just want to say congratulations. It's a lovely point in time to get to this milestone. Yeah, well done. Kia ora.
Thanks, Claire. And Claire, can I acknowledge your absolute diligence in ensuring that there was not a single grammatical error in the entire document. And there were points where there were inconsistencies that you'd obviously picked up, which were really, really valuable, because there are times where you can get so immersed in something you can't see wood for the trees, and you certainly are able to highlight where there are changes required. Claire.
This is just a personal belief I have, but I think that anyone that reads the document would pick those things up, and I do not understand why no one else sends those comments.
Thank you, Claire. Philip.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks to everyone, the team, you guys have done a phenomenal job, and it's just congratulations. And I remember when it all started with the Rural Tour and you coming around a few years ago. But one of the biggest successes of this and real learnings for us is the community, engaging with the community and visiting the rural communities. I remember going to Pukeatu and Karapera School, and I think there was Rukahare and various other places. So there's some real learnings there for us in council to for future projects and ideas and thoughts. And to be going out to the community, engaging with the community, and that's really critical. So congratulations to everyone, Kirsty up there, and well done, and looking forward to seeing more of it. So yeah, thank you. The results.
Fantastic. Liz, before I put the refer us to the, Mike here. So Liz, then Mike.
Yeah, no, thank you, everyone. Look, I absolutely agree with all the comments, but Portal, that word that you used, genuine engagement, that sums it up for me. And I think that we've always aspired to genuine engagement around the district, and I think we've achieved that through this process. From memory, it was the largest number or volume of pieces of feedback from our community ever. So I acknowledge the time and the effort that some poor person had to, work through. So obviously that's a big, that was a huge piece of work. I just wanted to also get some comment from staff, because I think the time for, or the timing of the blueprint for the resource management reform has come through. And of course, that focuses very much on spatial planning. We're ahead of the game. We always knew that this is going to probably be the case. And when I read that, that work, it does align mostly with what we've done. But did you have some comments on that? Because obviously there'll be some other things we still need to do, but I thought the timing of it was almost perfect. I think it came through in just in the last couple of days. But it's important for us to understand that obviously central government, working through the reform, have wanted councils like ourselves and regions to be thinking about spatial planning. And I guess we are ahead of the game, but some thoughts from staff on that would be quite good. And also I'd quite like to second the recommendation, please, too.
It would be quite a short comment from me. I think, as you said, we developed this when the last government had actually the Spatial Planning Act in mind, and where we actually saw quite a multiple district going through similar type of work. We probably, as a council who is not majorly urbanized, we were probably one of those first council to actually go there and try to understand what the rural-urban interface looks like in our district, and how we can actually better this for the entire communities. So I would just compliment what you just mentioned. We're a bit ahead of the game. Ahuake, as it is right now, and I really want to reinforce this, is a document. Until it is implemented and operationalized, this is when it actually becomes a spatial plan. Yeah. And we, this is going to inform the next round of the LTP. So we are already advancing the planning of our next long-term plan, the funding mechanisms for this district, and how we operationalize this. But yes, the next step is really where the key efficiency of that document comes to life, really. And I think that's where we will be able to really realize what spatial planning can do for the council and for the communities. Yeah.
Mike, did you have something you wanted to add before we wind this one up?
Yeah, thanks through the chair. Congratulations to all those involved, but particularly, Kirsty, Vanessa. You've shown the leadership from the top to involve all the right people, get all the stakeholders, and I guess all the partners involved right across the district. So it's been really important. You've brought everyone with you. And you've done it in a very innovative way that we hadn't done before. So, I'd also like to acknowledge Gary's sort of, that first conversation he had with us all quite a few years ago. So, I guess the other thing, a couple more things down here is, and this is a 30-year plan, and already this started under the previous government, and already this government, has tried to change the roadmap of what council should be focused on. Potholes, infrastructure, and roading. Those ministers can go and live in those towns, because though it's important, it is not. Those things don't make communities. They help communities. They don't build communities. So I really think they've missed the boat there. So though governments may come and go, these full well-beings, they're sort of. They don't have to be political. They just sort of make sense. They cover off everything that a family or a society would actually want, and somewhere to live. So, hey, well done there. You've alluded to the LTP, and this will be constantly reviewed. People will come and go from these chambers and from these communities, and this document will live on, and it'll morph. And in 30 years' time, for those who are around, they'll look back at where this began, and it'll look, I'm sure, quite different. But I guess. Ahuakia, the spatial plan, it's just the beginning, it's the end of the beginning, and now we start the journey. So, kia ora.
Thank you, Mike. Bill?
Thanks, Susan. Araha mai. I just, the implementation, yes, the start of the journey, in my mind, we've already started the journey to some extent. If I look back when we first got together, there was an opportunity expressed to have a Māori ward in this council, and the opportunities we had when we sat beside each other on all of those hui and attended them meant that we got the Māori ward across the line here. So we've, and to some extent, from our perspective, we've already entered into the implementation of Ahuaki. Being here today, sitting in these seats, is in our mind, the genuine consultation that was being discussed. And I know that coming up is another hard decision in terms of where Māori will sit in council proceedings going forward. And I just wanted to acknowledge the work of Dale Marie, our councillor, and hopefully we'll see that work continue with more Māori in this chamber. And I keep going back to the picture on the wall over there, acknowledging the significance of all of that. So thank you, Dale Marie. Thanks, Susan.
Thank you, Bill. I think that pretty much summarises. Lou, was that a wave of a hand there?
I didn't want to say too much, but firstly, I just wanted to congratulate everybody. I think we had a quantum shift when we started this consultation and we moved forward. And the biggest thing to me is a strategic plan is exactly that, a strategic plan. That means we don't deal in management or minuscule areas. We're looking at an overview for 30 years. And that's critical, that we can all work together collectively for the betterment of the people in Waipa. Really, really important. And I think if we can continue in that vein, we can only be successful. We'll be well gone, but people that will replace us will look at this plan, where it started, and they will modify it and alter it. And I do think that in the current environment we're seeing, we're going to see our annual plans and plans probably centralised a lot more, particularly under the Resource Management Act. We need that identity. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lou. So look, I'm happy. I've obviously moved the recommendation which appears at page 20 of our agenda, which is to receive Vanessa's report to adopt the plan, the Ahuaki Waipa Community Spatial Plan as it appears in our agenda. Also adopt the Ahuaki Implementation Plan for Ahuaki as it appears in the agenda, and also delegating to Kirsty, obviously, the authority to make some minor editorial changes if Claire finds some more. So look, I've moved that. Liz has seconded that. There being no further discussion, I shall put the motion. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Oh, wonderful. Well done, team. Congratulations.
Kia tīna, haumie huie tai ki e. Te aroha, te whakapono, me te rangi mari e tātou e. Me honora, me honora. Ki te atua, ka puta ka ora e tātou e. Tēnā tātou. I will do karakia for our kai. And I've just gone blank. Shucks. Taku whetai atu ana me o tātou kai e whakanui o tātou ringa ka hanga o tātou kai. Tūturu whakamaua kia tīna, haumie huie tai ki e. Tēnā tātou.
We'll start live streaming now. All right, everybody, welcome back. Obviously, I'm taking the chair. Susan, as earlier mentioned, she has a personal appointment for the rest of this meeting. So we'll head back into our agenda, which is our Waipa District Council elections, our order of candidate names. So Jo, over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So council has the option today of determining the order of surnames of candidates on the voting document. So there's three options: alphabetical, which is the default option if you do not make a decision before the 30th of June, pseudo-random, or random, which is the order that we have used for at least the last three elections, which is where everyone's voting document, the surnames of the candidates appear in a random order. Any questions?
All right, questions and preferences, everybody. So, Marcus.
I was going to say it's a pretty easy one. We always choose random, so happy to move random. It's logical.
Are there any other questions or comments around the item? So Marcus is prepared to move the recommendation, which of course on page 444. Councillor Pettit wants to second it. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, everybody. Nice quick item. Right, we'll move to our next item on page 448, our Audit and Risk Committee meeting, 10th of March 2025. I'd like to welcome Carol, who is online, and we'll ask Ken to introduce this item.
Right, well, welcome Carol, and good morning, councillors. So look, this item is our standard report back from our most recent Audit and Risk Committee meeting, and as you are aware, and as our practice has been just in very recent times, is looking for our independent members to assist with that report back. So normally that would of course be Chair Bruce Robertson, who you're well aware of. Bruce has committed our swear this morning, so we thought this was a great opportunity to introduce you to Carol Billette up on the screen. Carol came on to our Audit and Risk Committee as the second independent member towards the end of last year, and of course the intention behind that is that this is Bruce's last term, so the intention behind that is some succession planning, and we're looking potentially for Carol to step up into the chair's role next triennium. So Carol was based in Christchurch, which is why she's on screen this morning. But really warm welcome to you, Carol, and happy for you to lead us through this item. We do have George, who's sitting at the front desk, who's very, very involved in Audit and Risk Committee, and we have Jenny up on the screen as well. So between the three of us staff members, myself included, we can support Carol, but we'll let her be the lead.
Thank you, Ken. Just checking you can hear me all okay?
Perfect. Yes, thank you.
Great, thank you. Well, look, the Audit and Risk Committee received a very comprehensive and informative quarterly risk briefing from management. And in that briefing, there were two emerging risks were highlighted. The first one being the geopolitical and geoeconomic risk, and secondly, the security of natural gas supply. So these two new emerging risks were also combined with the previous risk flagged last quarter around the LTP timelines, local water done well service plan, and the elections. And all of these are being very closely monitored by the exec team. The committee discussed changes in risk trends, and we talked about the financial strategy and affordability risk upward trend being mitigated by the approval of the bespoke covenant by LGFA. And we also talked about the change in business context risk trending upward with the high levels of uncertainty in the wider external environment. So the committee discussed concerns about the government reforms and economic conditions and any potential impact that could have on service delivery and how the organisation was dealing with this. We also reviewed the audit plan that came through from Audit New Zealand, and the committee's recommending that council does endorse the Managing Business Resilience Policy and Framework and notes that the Crisis Management Playbook will help guide the organisation in dealing with events. And just before I hand over to the team to provide further background, I did just want to pass on a comment from Bruce Robertson, the chair of the committee. He's recently been presenting at a risk forum, and once again, he has highlighted Waipa District Council's risk framework as a very strong example for others to learn from and follow. So just wanted to pass that positive feedback back to you, but over to the team on the ground there. Yeah.
Thank you, Carol, for that. I presume there's no questions at this point. We'll hand over to George.
Hi, I actually don't have anything further to add. I think in terms of what Carol has said, we're looking here for endorsement of the framework and the policy, which Carol's indicated ARC recommend that council does so. She's given a great summary, so we're happy to answer any other questions.
All right, thank you, George. Right, questions around the table. I am not seeing any questions. In that case, we have a recommendation, A and B, to receive the report, but also endorsing the Managing Business Resilience at Waipa policy. So if there's no queries, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Roger, would you like to move that? And Dalmarie, like to second that? All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you, everybody. Very straightforward. Thank you, Carol.
Thanks, George.
Right, what we will do is we're going to be moving into a resolution to exclude the public now. So can I have a mover and a seconder, please, to do that? Bruce is going to move.